No, totally.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Mindful CEO. Yes, I'm back with Aaron Hendon. Hello, Aaron.
What's up? I love it how we're always laughing when you come on. So it's like they missed the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's good. I think it's
Yeah.
a good bit. It's a good
Where
brand.
were you people? You should have been here.
We have fun all the time, before recording, during
Oh,
recording.
that's what that message is.
We just have fun all the time.
All the time. My
Yeah,
girl.
this is this is a juicy one today. I'm excited.
Well, we were talking, we're sort of going back to that conversation we were having.
Yeah.
Whenever we were having it about that tension between mindful and CEO, and been playing with, the utility of mindfulness, which is the same tension, right? Like there's that,
sure.
What am I going to use this for?
Yeah.
What am I going to use mindfulness for? How's it going to produce better results for me? Right. And I mean, on one hand, that's an absurd question. It's anti-mindful to, it's striving is built in to the question. And yet there's a utility to mindfulness. There's no doubt, science is solid and thorough and deep that mindfulness practices are, have a great utility in terms of one's health, happiness, well-being, satisfaction, that happy people produce better results. It's all, right, so there's a utility to it, but there's that tension or that paradox of, yes, there's a utility to it, but no, you can't use it for that. You have to do it for itself. And that's awesome. And so just engaging with that, anytime there's a paradox, it's sort of fun to play with, but there is that, that the nature of that koan, the nature of that paradox to deal with, like, what am I going to do with this? And I was having a conversation with one of my mentors, Jeff Wilmore, about, how intention and intentionality fit into this conversation. Like, how do you provide intentionality or be out to fulfill an intention without striving? Non-striving is one of the tenets of mindfulness, of Tantra, of all the Eastern thought that we're engaging with here, non-striving, letting go, but how do you then stand in being intentional to make that happen? And the thing we were laughing about, we're getting to the joke, is I have, what I discovered for myself in that call with Jeff was that I've been, for the most part, whitewashing the word intentionality over forcing an outcome. Like, if I want to be nice about it, I'll say I'm being intentional, but really I'm forcing the fucking outcome. But I'm being intentional. Which seems like such a nicer word for something than I can't admit that I'm forcing the outcome. I have to just be, I'm being intentional about this. And
wait, pause. Because I think that would be, I don't know that that's uncommon. I think most people would think of intention that way. Like, intention is, we're going to make sure this happens.
Yes. Yeah.
It has a flavor of force to it. Like,
well, it's not even a flavor. It is. We're going to make sure this happens is a forceful statement. And it's really different than, and this is what I discovered, and the thing that is really worth playing with here is very different than creating a clearing for something. Right? Of, I'm going to be intentional that result shows up. I'm going to create a clearing for this. Other ways to say that would be, I'm open and I'm going to remain open. And I am looking forward to, I can hear Abraham say that, right?
Yes. Allowing.
I'm allowing, right? Those are spaces of something. And I have an intention that this arise in this space. And but what I'm being intentional about is not making it happen. What I'm being intentional about is my mind letting go of it. Needs to look this way. It needs to happen now. It needs to do this. It needs to, and it doesn't need to anything. The intention is on me managing what I'm attached to.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Not the result, but my own attachment to the result.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Yeah. there's something I feel like I've been practicing this lately. Ever since you brought up the 7 tenets of mindfulness, and I pick a word for the week from those 7, and on my walk I talk through it with myself, and there is a activeness to holding my intention.
Yes.
That is not a forcing, but it is a tuning my energy to the thing I'm intending. I'm thinking about my vision and my goals and the things, but I'm not keyboard warrioring all the actions there are to do. I'm simply I'm rampaging and manifest. I'm talking through in my mind, my heart, the things that that feels like to me. There's an activeness to the intention, but it's not a external forcing out there to make something happen. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, that's one way that I can organize those thoughts in a way that they settle for me, and rather than just be upsetting. Is, being intentional is watching myself. You could, mindfulness on one hand is, it's a question that one of the people I learning mindfulness from, or I follow mindful conversations or meditate with, is, setting intentions for the practice, for your set. Like I do a morning practice on Facebook and LinkedIn, that morning live I do every day, is the intention is to have gratitude be present. That's the intention, is to allow gratitude to arise, is to have gratitude, but it's not, okay, now motherfuckers, we're going to feel grateful. You just can't get there from here. You can't get down that road. And I have spent a lot of time, being a high D and all those kinds of personality traits that come with that, and being, driven in that way, and very results oriented person. And to a large extent, have a lot of pride attached to my results. Make it super slippery for me to go down the road of, and then having this, like even we joke about this sometimes in my friend group, about how I meditate better than you. Like I'm the master of this. I have won many awards in being better meditator, that like the awesome joke that is to be that way. But that's you got to get it down to that level of absurdity if you really do think intentional means making something happen. You really, I think that's the problem, is about being intentional about something. It certainly could be interpreted that way.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with interpreting that way. It's just not, you might as well just call it forcing an outcome.
Right. Yeah.
You might as well just say, I'm going to force this thing to happen, rather than I think intentional has in my view, in my experience, and the way I use the word, has a whitewashing, as a icing on mud kind of thing. Like it's an inauthentic way of saying, I'm going to force this out. Why wouldn't you say I'm going to force this outcome? Well, because it makes you sound like an idiot. It makes you sound like you're forceful, and no one wants to sound like they're forceful. So I'm going to say I'm intentional. Right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, but it's bullshit, because you're just forcing the outcome, saying you're being intentional. That's not the way it works. You could, you might as well say I'm forcing the outcome. Being intentional really is, I am holding an intent. I'm saying it really is. It's not really anyway. Okay. It's
sure.
Come back to this. Remind me about the Dunning Kruger effect in a second. Okay. Because I have a new vibe on the Dunning Kruger effect too. But for this conversation, being intentional is holding the space for something to arise. I'm intentionally creating the space for something to arise. And then I can begin to notice what's in the space that's inconsistent with that thing arising.
Yeah. Makes me think of if you planted something.
Yeah.
you plant a tree or a vegetable or something, and you aren't in control of it growing. It's gonna grow, but you can be intentional about watering it, making sure it has the right light and temperature. Like, you can manage the conditions.
That's right.
Of which the thing you intend is going to grow in. But I think it's not unlike that. I think, I think
it's a great metaphor.
Who are you to think as a human being you can control anything or force anything? That there is this is the whole, this is very Eastern versus Western thinking, but there is a flow to things. And the minute you launch a rocket of desire, things are set in motion energetically that you really don't need to do anything for. The intention around it can just be, like, I guess, to the metaphor, just be managing the environment and the conditions for the thing you've already enacted to come to fruition.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I love it. That's exactly right. And then it allows for that element of magic and miracles and God, or whatever you want to call any of that space, shows up, because really, a seed in the ground with water and warmth grows. There's there's magic in that.
Yeah.
There just is. It's just Einstein's conversation for either there's two ways to see life, where nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle. And it's just I prefer the everything's a miracle view, because that's fucking miraculous.
Yeah.
You were one cell that was divided by a sperm, and then all of a sudden you divided and divided and divided and divided and divided and divided inside your mom. You divided and divided, and every cell somehow knew to form fingernails, hair, eyes, everything. Consciousness arose.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Look, science is real, and that's a fucking miracle.
Yeah.
I got no problem with science being real, and that's a miracle.
Yeah.
I don't see how those are contradictory statements.
Yeah.
At all. So I think the seed thing is a great, perfect metaphor for what we mean when we say being intentional.
Yeah. And on this side of it, this side of practicing that way, practicing that kind of holding space and managing conditions, my experience of that has been, and it's taken some time to practice it, right? But as I've gotten better at it, it's like the journey way more enjoyable. When I always felt like I had to force something, or, oh shit, if I don't do something, like, the wheels are going to fall off. Very stressful way to do it. Yeah. On this side of it, it's way more fun.
Yeah. And way more productive too. I just look at it from the context of training my team, any salespeople, one of the 5 people that listens are in sales, although my wife listened this week, so 6.
Awesome.
We're up to 6. Yeah. Kale listened. And, your prospects are all seeds that you've planted. You can't force them to buy. You don't force people to buy.
Yeah.
You just plant and nurture enough seeds. And if business is off, then you just plant and nurture more seeds. It's not really anything more to it than that. And you make sure they have you nurture them. You make sure they have the right water. You take care of them. I'm out pie delivering today to nurture my, prospects. And that's the way that works. So I just think there's magic in that context but it took me the last few weeks of dealing with it, because I really did have intentional as I didn't have an authentic relationship to how I was using the word intentional until just really, this conversation, like, oh yeah, I'm full of shit. I say intentional, but I mean forcing the outcome.
It's very mindful of you. That's very mindful of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell me,
it was bugging me. It was like bugging me. Like, well, how does intentionality fit into this? I was thinking about how it came up was in terms of our sales team. Like, I know if I get on the phones and I start calling, I have an intention, like I'm going to have 3 conversations, set 1 appointment, whatever, right? Whatever I'm going to do. And I set that intention, and that happens more than not, but it doesn't happen because I forced it to happen. It happens because and to whatever extent this was accidental until I just distinguished this, but it's now that it's distinguished, it can be more intentional.
Yeah.
I've gotten good at creating a space in which something arises, but I hadn't distinguished that that's what I'm doing, and attributed it to this ephemeral thing called being intentional versus, being intentional is taking care of the environment in this way so that those people on the other end of the phone feel nurtured, respected, known, taken care of. And I'm going to, and I'm solid in the value I'm providing. I'm not here hassling people. I'm really actually out to provide value for them. And I'm going to keep doing that in that empowering context. And I know that if I do that long enough, 3 appointments or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. There's some nuance in that for me. If I thought what jumped in my head as you said that was if I were planting a seed, I'm not much of a gardener. So, but I've seen people who are going to start their vegetables, and in the winter, they can put little seeds in little small containers, like those little 6 in a plastic thing.
I know. I do garden, so I know what those are.
Okay. Yeah. And so they may have a light or something, and they might spritz it with a sprayer instead of a huge water hose. Like there's some, depending on the situation you're coming into, you can be mindful about or intentional about, what does this phase of the thing I'm doing need? Does it need a hose, or does it need a sprayer? Does it need a little thing or a huge pot? How much soil, like you can really start to be intentional about the environment you're hosting, holding for the thing to happen without being like, grow seed, grow,
Exactly.
So tell me about the Dunning Kruger effect. What were you?
Yeah. So, do you know what the Dunning Kruger effect is?
I don't.
Oh, okay. So it's a cognitive bias.
You're smarter than me.
Okay. Well, that's certainly
you
arguable.
Look so surprised. Oh, God.
Okay.
Wow.
I know what the Dunning Kruger effect is, barely, but okay. So there's two aspects of Dunning Kruger effect. Okay. One is, and I think this is the more commonly known and used one. And tell me if you've heard this. Tell me if you heard this one.
Okay.
Is that incompetent people almost always greatly overestimate their own competence in situations in which they're incompetent.
I haven't heard it, but I get it.
Okay. Because they're incompetent, they don't know enough about the thing to know they're incompetent.
Sure. I can see that in my own life. Yeah.
Okay, great. And they greatly overestimate their abilities in the areas where they're incompetent.
Good.
It's rampant. Okay. It's hard. You can't swing a dead cat without finding someone who's overestimating their abilities in an area in which they're clearly incompetent. And the reason they're overestimating it is because they're incompetent and they don't know enough to know that they're overestimating their abilities. Okay. That's half of it. The other half of it is that competent people regularly underestimate their abilities in areas in which they're competent because they know that they don't know the whole thing.
Wow.
And they think other people already think this way. So they don't think what they have to contribute is anything particularly special. So they undervalue what they have to contribute because for them, they know they don't know enough. Yeah. Right. They know they are lacking information. They know enough about it. They're competent in it. And they know there's people that are probably better than them at this. So they hedge their bets that they don't contribute as much because first of all, they think they don't have as much to contribute because everyone already knows this, which is not the case. Yeah. And the people that really are experts in this know more than me. So I'm not going to contribute it.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
I relate to that a lot. I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah. So, the conversation isn't as valuable now because you hadn't heard of it before. So fine for ruining everything, Chris.
Great. I'm loving it.
Okay, good. But for me, the thing I discovered about this recently for myself was I've been familiar with this for a while, right? I love cognitive biases. I've been engaging in this for years, and I just think they're just fascinating. And, really when it comes down to it, everything about the forum and everything that we have used in our training, Chris, as self-awareness and growth and development and transformation is just breaking free of some cognitive biases, right? That's going beyond the heuristics, going beyond what thinking fast, thinking slow.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, my doggy just came in.
Hi, puppy.
Hey, buddy.
What- our guest today on the
Our guest doggy.
podcast.
Yeah, it's just going beyond the heuristic, and that's just a heuristic. That's just the way your human brain operates, right? If I don't know enough about this, I'm going to tend to overestimate my competency. Sure. And I've known about that, and it's sort of a common social media meme, and it's a sort of a pop culture-y at this point, right? Which is why I was actually surprised you haven't heard of it, because it is sort of pop culture-y at this point, because it's so fucking rampant that there's so many idiots out there running shit that really they have no business running, right? So it's like that. And the truth is this, the second half of it I hadn't really dealt with when I hadn't read this interpretation or this explanation of it before, where it was that people are trapped in the Dunning Kruger effect when they think other people think this way, and that so they don't contribute. I was like, oh wow, that's where imposter syndrome comes from.
Yes.
And I just hadn't seen it as that. I had it diagnosed as imposter syndrome, which is one thing, but to see it as an actual cognitive bias that human beings are, the thing about these biases are they're ways in which we are predictably irrational. Like you could predict this behavior because it's part of what, the way the brain functions.
Wow.
It's not just some personal trauma.
Yeah.
It's not you just personally have a problem with it. It's a mental shortcut the brain takes, as much as, availability bias or confirmation bias or any of the other irrational cognitive biases take us over. It's going to take you over, that you are going to have the experience of not wanting to contribute or not thinking you have a contribution to make because of what Dunning and Kruger discovered about the human brain, that you think you don't know enough. And it came up in this conversation because I kept hedging on when I was saying intentionality, it is really this.
Yeah.
Right. It's really this way. And then I had to backtrack and say, I don't really mean it's not really this way. I'm saying it's just my view of it. Right. For myself, I have the experience of I can't be too confident. Like I'm not allowed to be too confident. Like I can't say it really is this way. I have to make sure that I know it's not really that way. That's just the way I think. And that way, if there really is an expert listening or someone who knows a lot more about it, I won't get corrected.
Right,
and that's all a piece of it, and then the whole world of, what I'm building with my training program for my team, and the difference I'm out to contribute with that, and the difference that makes, that's all inside this world of, first of all, I don't say I don't contribute what I have enough, because I think everyone already knows it.
Yeah.
And I'm not the expert in it. There are people that are more expert than I, and I need to defer to them. I need to pre-defer to them. Right? Like I have to be pre-deferential.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good word. I like that, pre-deferential. Yeah.
Good, man. Well, it's so good, because I think like when I think about my premise of things, like when leaders lead, the world will change. And what keeps leaders from leading is this thing of, I don't know enough. At least the people that I seem to end up attracting are, people like us who are pre-deferential. They're constantly thinking, I don't know. So who am I? Somebody knows more than me.
That's right. That's the point. It's not the people you run into. It's people.
Sure.
Okay, but that's a really different thing, because it's not just, because otherwise it becomes a personal, one of the things that happens in the forum that's so profound for people is that you finally get, this isn't me. This is human.
Yeah.
It's not me having an internal dialogue. It's not me having it's not me doing that. It's why I could see how I was with my mom when someone else was sharing about their brother. Sure. I'm like, oh shit, that's the way human beings are designed. That's the beauty of the design of the forum, why the forum works so unbelievably well and quickly, because it shows you the design of human being. You experience it as a design. So it's not that the leaders you run into are pre-deferential. It's that human beings, if they have a commitment to make, are going to be hesitant to make that difference because they know enough to know someone else knows more.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Well, I think, and maybe that's the point, is like, there is when you can take that lid off, I think one of the things that neutralizes this Dunning Kruger effect, if I'm using this right, is what neutralizes that for me, neutralizing the thing where I think I don't know enough, so I have to learn more, or I have to do something else to prove myself and build a resume. Where neutralizes that for me lately has been mindfulness. That I will be in a state of allowing, that I'll remind myself and be in a state of non-striving. Like when I get into these energy spaces, that chatter falls off, it falls away, and it's not a part of how I'm conducting myself.
Oh, that's really interesting, Chris. That's really interesting. That we're going to go full circle now back to the utility of mindfulness.
Yeah.
As an access, because that really is, an access for people to get out of the well-worn neuronal patterns of the heuristics that run human beings, the thinking fast pattern, right? That's the thinking fast, what Kahneman calls thinking fast. The slow thinking is accessible to all of us at any time. We just need to quiet the amygdala down to be able to access that part of the brain. And mindfulness practices, without a doubt, give us access to that, allows us to act, not react.
Yeah.
The reaction is where the heuristics come in, and why we've been, we've developed the neuronal pathways to have us survive.
Yep.
They're just not particularly useful in having us thrive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And mindfulness is for sure an access to going, allowing the other noise to be the other noise, the amygdala not in, just let it do its thing, and then you actually have an access to, oh yeah, I could do anything in this situation.
Yeah. Cool. Redemption.
Yes.
Utility. Mindfulness works. It's the real deal.
Now, quick, go produce something.
We can scale with mindfulness. Oh, that's great.
Yes,
I sense
scalability.
Man, it's almost December, and at the time it's recording, and I am fired up to set my goals for 10xing everything through mindfulness in 2024.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Intentional as fuck. I am going to meditate so much better than you. We should have a contest. I'm so much more mindful than you suckers.
I love it. Oh, it's good, man. This feels probably like a good place to put a pin in it.
Yeah. Although I am now, next week when we do this, I will have a link to my Mindful AF shirts for anyone who's interested in actually showing people exactly who's boss in your area. Great. You are Mindful AF. That is how we're doing this. I'm going to have Grateful AF, Mindful AF, Enlightened AF.
Love it. Collectors, you should have a new version every year, kind of like a Starbucks cup. Everybody wants to collect the latest
Mindful AF
Mindful CEO shirt. So good. Well, those of you listening, what's cool about community, right, is being in a space where you can be intentional with others who are in a similar space. And I love that. That's what we're curating, Aaron, is that there is a space where you can develop and feel the muscle memory of what it is to be in conversations with others who are interested in what it means to be intentional and mindful inside of their business. And sometimes that's hard to do alone. If you want to learn more about what Aaron and I are creating there, you can go to themindfulceo.com, click on the appropriate links, and we'll follow up from there.
Fabulous. Yay.
Awesome sauce.
Happy
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanksgiving, everybody, whenever you're listening. Okay.
Yep. See ya.